Good morning, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. TV Toastmasters Club 9523 is in session. Good morning. This is one of the dreary spring days that we sometimes get. Of course, we all love spring, but sometimes rain comes along with spring. But the great thing is there's nothing but sunshine inside the ACTV studios today, so that's the positive part. We're ready for another great meeting this morning. We have several guests with us today who will help us to present a very exciting meeting this morning. I'd like to welcome Paul Wessels, Roy Roberts, and Joe Schwerling. I'm also happy to say that two of those guests will no longer be guests within the next hour. They will join our club and add to our total of members, so very happy about that. We have a very interesting meeting today with some exciting table topics and exciting speakers. So with no further ado, we'll get into the festivities. I'd like to bring up our Toastmaster for this meeting. Please welcome Christine Sullivan.
Welcome, everyone, as well as our TV audience. As Darren had stated, this is the month of May, the month of not only rain, but also spring flowers, graduations, and planning Memorial Day vacations. We have an exciting lineup for everyone today, and I'd like to go ahead and kick that off with Carol Kormalik for the Word Power Arcana.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guests. Move that over because I'm always hiding my face behind that. The purpose of giving you a new word of the day is to help improve your range of vocabulary, how many words that you may know, and I picked a simple word today. It's done. It's an adjective, and there are 6 definitions for done. And a lot of people, when you say done, they're going, turkeys are cooked, people are finished. And so if you notice, cook sufficiently is the 5th of 6 definitions. One of the definitions is executed, completed, finished, settled, cooked sufficiently, or worn out. So it's done, and my psychic is done. The improper uses of done: I done it, he done it. It should be I did it, he did it. That is my word of the day. I will be also counting your ahs and your ums, and if I find good uses or poor uses of grammar, if we drop our G's and going instead of going, and wash instead of wash, and different things like that, I will be checking. Madam Toastmaster. And the challenge is to come up and use this every time you come up here.
That was done very nicely. Thank you. To go ahead and kick off the table topics, I'd like to introduce Jerome Manigan.
Thank you. I am going to approach this a little differently in that I am going to ask Mr. Joe Swirlinger. Is it Swirlinger? Come on up here, Joe. To help me with this. One of my responsibilities is to tell those in the audience why we do table topics. And I know that you are a longtime member of Toastmasters. I believe you are the member of how many clubs?
Only 3 right now, but 6 at one time. And it varies according to how much I want to learn and how much I can help other clubs.
And one of the things that helps members to learn is table topics. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, this is it. Joe, please explain to our audience the purpose of table topics in a Toastmasters meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Table Topics gives us the opportunity to practice and become competent in impromptu communications. Especially comes in handy with job interviews, asking for a raise, talking to someone in an elevator or on the street who you want to tell all about Toastmasters. Maybe even putting an answering machine note where you talk about Toastmasters. You want Table Topics to be just a shorter version of the organized speeches that we'll have coming up momentarily that each speaker does to practice their communication skills. With Table Topics, you try to have it the same way. Have an interesting opening that'll get the audience's attention, a little bit of a body, which has to be quite short when you're only talking about a 1 to 2 minute impromptu presentation, and a summary or interesting conclusion. But it's just to be able to speak in an organized, coherent, and or fun manner in any impromptu situation. And just like everything with Toastmasters, practice, practice, practice. You'll never be done, but the more practice you get, the better a communicator we can be in all fashions, from table topics to professional speeches. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to start by inviting Mrs. Carol Carmelink up. In your opinion, what is the most beautiful man-made object in the world?
In my opinion, the most beautiful man-made object reminds me of things that the 7 wonders of the world, and some of those are not man-made. So I don't know of the man-made objects what would be the most beautiful object in the world. I'd say, well, that's not man-made either. I was going to say a baby, but that's not exactly man-made entirely. That's a man-made and woman-made and God-made. The most beautiful man-made. One of the things that Joe didn't mention is when you are called up to answer a table topics question, you have between 1 to 2 minutes, and you have your option of 3 things. You may either tell the truth, or you may let your fancy run wild and lie about something, or you can say, that reminds me, and talk about something else. And you try to fit it in. You'll see a green card at 1 minute, a yellow card at 1.5 minutes right here in front of me, and the red card at 2 minutes. And we don't have a hook that grabs you off, but we ask that you try to keep it within the 1 to 2 minutes. Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you, Carol. Paul Wessel, would you please come up? And we're very happy that you have selected our club to join. We look forward to benefiting from the information that you will be sharing with us via your speeches in the months ahead of us. Okay. But for right now, you get an opportunity to practice table topics.
Okay.
Your question is this, and keep in mind everything that Joe has told you, keep in mind everything that Carol just told you.
Okay.
You've been given the chance to travel into the future to see how the world will change over the next 50 years. What change in particular are you most interested in?
Wow. First of all, this is the first time I've been on television, I think. I may have been on television at a ball game or something like that, but the lights, the cameras, it's kind of interesting to be here. In the future, tough question. What do I believe would be, could you repeat the question again? In the future?
You've been given the chance to travel into the future to see how the world will change over the next 50 years. What change in particular are you most interested in?
Wow. I'm an engineer, and maybe one of the things that I'm thinking about, instead of talking about world peace and that sort of thing, and maybe energy, what kind of new energy sources we may come up with. They've been trying to improve the car for years and years and years, trying to get more gas mileage out of cars and that sort of thing. but they haven't seemed to get better gas mileage. So I'm really curious on what's going to happen in the future with respect to energy. Maybe nuclear energy would come into play, and I think that's probably one of the best things that we have available to us at this point. I don't think solar is going to really hit. It's just not practical. I don't think any of the other technologies like wind, they say it's going to be practical, but it's just a tiny fraction. So I think our best option in the next 50 years, probably in the next 10 years, will probably be nuclear power plant to bring that up. So oil is always going to be there. We're always going to get cheap oil from the folks over in the Middle East. You're always going to buy the cheapest oil, so you're always going to be going to the Middle East to buy oil. We're going to try to improve things here, but as long as that oil is cheaper over there, we're going to continue to buy foreign oil. So it all comes down to economics. So again, the first time on television, the first thing that came to my mind was basically energy, and maybe that's the way things will happen in the future.
But anyway, I've heard you talk about travel, so I think that this is a good question for you. And we're projecting into the future, not 50 years, but maybe 6-7 months into the future.
Yes.
If you could be anywhere in the world for New Year's Eve this year, where would you most want to be?
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master, fellow Toastmasters. That's a great question, and I actually have two answers for that. If my son was not along, I have one answer when we take the kid, one answer when we don't take the kid. If my wife and I just went off and went anywhere in the world, one thing I've become fascinated with is, at some point in my life, going to Africa. I wanted to go see the cultural aspects of Africa, see where my forefathers many years ago came from, and also my son now is just fascinated with animals, and he is just absolutely fascinated with Africa and all the animals that come from Africa. And I would love, of course, at 4 years old, I probably wouldn't take him across the ocean to go visit Africa, but now I'm fascinated by it also. So I would love to go to Africa, see the cultural aspects of it, see the historical parts of it, but then also be able to take a safari and see the amazing types of animals and plant life that are in Africa. So I think that'd be a fascinating trip. Now, assuming that I did take our son with us, which is probably something we would realistically do if we went on vacation, one place we've also talked about going, and this is probably more realistic over the next couple of years, is going to Hawaii. My wife's always wanted to go to Hawaii. We've never been there before. I think it would actually be, other than the long trip, a good place for a 3-year-old to visit and to play. So while the trip I'd like to take would be Africa, most likely the trip we'll take within the next couple of years would be Hawaii, because that'd be more of a family vacation. Mr. Tabletopics Master.
Thank you, Darren. I would like for our Vice President of Education, Laura Lee Gayfield, to join me. What is the greatest lesson in life you have ever learned?
Thank you. The greatest lesson in life most recently is not to do your own plumbing. After remodeling our kitchen, putting down tile floor, putting in new cabinets, the reconnect under the kitchen sink didn't hold. So now I still have no kitchen and I'm doing it all over again. Talking about the greatest lesson in life, it can apply several different ways. In insurance, 85% of working in insurance and dealing with insurance is gut instinct. If something doesn't sound right, it probably isn't, and you should ask some more questions. I have woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking about an account I had worked on the previous day, going, you know, I think I should ask this question and this question. I really try not to do that, but sometimes the instincts kick in, even when you're asleep and not particularly working at work. And sometimes those instincts kicked in, hopefully quickly enough while you're on the phone that you can just ask the person who would know the answer right away. And another lesson that I learned, and I've heard a couple other people say this, is listen to your mother. She's going to be right. Maybe not in the next 5 minutes, maybe in the next 5 years, maybe in the next 55 years. So listen to your mother. part of my insurance job and maybe your job, 85% instinct, and hire a plumber to reconnect the sink. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Steve, if you could have any object or place in the whole wide world completely to yourself for one day, what would you choose?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests, and our audience watching in today. Any object or place in the world all to myself for an entire day. My, that's not the kind of question that I normally get, so I don't think about it an awful lot. I think what I would ask for is a helicopter ride, and I wouldn't be all by myself because I can't fly one of those, and I do want to get back intact at the end. But I would take a helicopter tour of the Rocky Mountains on a perfect, brilliant sunlit day. And this would allow me to set down at different locations and do some exploration just of the area. I think that that would be something that would be very much to my liking, and it would certainly be something that wouldn't be duplicated anytime soon, because that would be quite an exceptional opportunity. So I would say to have a personal guided helicopter tour of a significant portion of the Rocky Mountains. Mr. Tabletopics Master?
Thank you, Steve. Roy Roberts, would you please come up? I know that you are a musician. I know that you've studied at the Conservatory of Music at the University of Cincinnati. And once upon a time when you were young, you were a student at Central State University in the music department. So my question to you is, in your opinion, what is the best piece of music ever written?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. In my opinion, the best piece of music is, it's quite frankly all of them. Each piece of music expresses some creativity, some uniqueness, and I enjoy classical piano, I enjoy jazz piano, I enjoy musical show tunes, children's pieces. Music is just creativity, expression, and I enjoy music, and so all music, classical, show tunes, opera, they're unique and different, and I enjoy them. I think the best piece of music is still to be created. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, Miss Christine, would you come up?
Okay.
What have you learned about Tabletopics from all of these speakers?
I've learned that you have to think on your feet. You have to anticipate any type of question, whether it's about the future or it's a historical question about what's your favorite music. Tabletopics is an opportunity to speak your mind about something, and you have 1 to 2 minutes to do that in. It's not often that people ask you for your opinion and you get to do it in front of an audience. That's something that Toastmasters affords you that opportunity. I've had the luxury of being able to do this myself for about 8 months and have done Tabletopics several times in that time frame. And it's been a good way to think about how to anticipate questions I get at work, which I get frequently. I'm a consultant and I work with clients all the time. And they will come out with questions that perhaps I haven't thought about. And so this type of setting allows me to answer questions in a very safe environment without any professional repercussions. So I appreciate the opportunity to do this, and I think Tabletopics is a good forum to do that. Thank you.
Now, don't go away because I am done, and I am going to turn the meeting back over to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Okay. We have a speaker coming up next who is doing his persuasive leader speech from the Persuasive Speaking Manual. But not to tip it off on what the topic is about, I'd like to introduce Darren Henderson to give his speech. Thank you.
And the setting is that I am a newly hired general manager for a football team, and you are the players of that football team. Good morning. You're fortunate young men. Why? Because you're NFL players? No. Because you're paid well to play a game that you love? No. Because you're the envy of every male 8 to 80 in this country? No. You're fortunate because you are Detroit Lions. Because you are Detroit Lions. You are fortunate because you are Detroit Lions. Before I go further, I'm the new general manager for your team. I've been recently hired. I had my choice of jobs around the NFL, but I chose to come here. Why? Because I wanted to build something from the ground up. You guys were 0-16 last year. Didn't win a game, not a single solitary game. Sorry guys, but let's not put lipstick on the pigskin. You lost more games than any team in NFL history. So once again, why did I choose to join this organization? Because I watched you last year, and you never gave up. You played hard for all 16 games of the season. Even though you didn't win a game, this team is not without winners. I have helped build winning organizations in the NFL, and I know that in order to be successful, each organization must know what it wants to be. I know what I want you to be. My vision is not as simple as just winning Super Bowls. It's a lot more complicated than that. Let me tell you where I see this team in 3 years. We will be a disciplined team. We will run an innovative offense with a passing attack and a multifaceted running game. We will control the line of scrimmage with a dominating offensive line. On defense, we will be quick to the ball, we'll force turnovers, we will attack relentlessly. We will keep the opposing offenses off balance by blitzing and stunning. We will hit hard. We will pummel the opposition. Offensive coaches and quarterbacks will dread the week that they play the Detroit Lions. Their stomachs will begin to churn on the Monday of game week, and Pepto-Bismol and Tums will be plentiful in their locker rooms. As I said earlier, my vision doesn't involve flashy Super Bowl commercials or just wins. My vision is watching a Lions football team in our beloved Honolulu blue uniforms that is absolutely dominating the opposition. A strong-arm quarterback, hello, Mr. Stafford, throwing the ball to the best wide receiver in football, hello, Mr. Johnson. An opportunistic defense, confusing the offense and forcing QBs into throwing interceptions. Our beloved Ford Field, full of screaming, yelling, rabid fans who love their Lions. They just love their Lions. Gentlemen, if that vision comes true, we will win Super Bowls. How do we get there? Well, it starts with our coaching staff. Our head coach and his coordinators are the best in football. And like me, They wanted to come here. They had other options, but they chose to come to Detroit. They will implement my vision of an innovative offense with an opportunistic defense, and our players will be better prepared than any team in football. We will draft and sign better players than the opposition. We will field a superior team and have a talent advantage every Sunday. We will be disciplined, we will be tougher than our enemies, and we will be smarter than our enemies. Finally, we must play and practice like champions. We must exhibit strength of character, strength of body, and strength of mind. I guarantee you that this will be a winning franchise. What I cannot guarantee you is that you will be part of that winning franchise. If you want a ticket on this train, you must be willing to work, sacrifice, study, trust, sweat, cry, and even love. Becoming a champion is not easy, gentlemen, but it can be done, and we can travel a great distance quickly. The Dallas Cowboys were 1-15 in 1989. 3 years later, they won the first of 3 Super Bowls over a 4-year period. The St. Louis Rams were 4-12 in 1998. In 1999, they hoisted the Lombardi Trophy as Super Bowl champions. Just last year, the Miami Dolphins came off a 1-15 season, just one more win than you gentlemen had last year. And the year prior, last year, they went 11-5 and made the playoffs. In each case, those teams built upon the adversity of losing to forge a strength that carried them over hurdles and led to great success. There is a common saying that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Adversity breeds character. Let me tell you a story. During the Great Depression, a young girl was born into the most difficult of circumstances. She spent her early life shuffling among relatives. At age 8, she was assaulted by her mother's boyfriend. The event so traumatized her that she more or less stopped speaking. During this time, her grandmother would always tell her, constantly reinforcing her sense of worth and telling her that she would one day become a great teacher. At first, the girl thought her grandmother was crazy. How could anyone who didn't even speak accomplish anything in life? Well, eventually she did begin to believe, and she eventually regained her voice 5 years after that horrible incident. And once she talked, she continued to talk. In fact, she eventually became one of the loudest voices of the 20th century. Maya Angelou, I'm sure you've all heard of, went on to be nominated for a Pulitzer Prize, Tony and Grammy Awards, and of course eventually read a very famous poem at the inauguration of Bill Clinton. So true to her grandmother's prognostication, she became a great teacher and spoke in front of thousands of people. It's amazing what 350-pound linemen can learn from the strength, fortitude, and perseverance of a young girl. The opportunity laid in front of us is a great one, gentlemen. Shock the NFL, shock the world, show everyone the Lions are winners. Show everyone who laughed at you last year and made jokes about your record that you are winners. The next 4 months leading up to our first game will be the most important of your football career. Most of you started loving this game when the ball was actually bigger than you were. Now, you may think you've made it because you're on the roster of an NFL team, but you haven't made it until you're winners. The next 4 months and the ensuing season will be the defining moment of your career. Are you the type of player who steps up to the challenge or who folds under the pressure? Will you seize the opportunity to be great? Don't look back on this opportunity years later and regret that you did not give maximum effort. In this business, your time is short. Vince Lombardi once said, "The spirit, the will to win, and the will to excel are the things that endure." These qualities are so much more important than the events that occur. Good luck, gentlemen. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for that speech. Playing a manager of the Lions and in NFL is something that I think has a lot of poignancy in this particular time only because pep talks are applicable wherever you are for whatever you're doing. It's something that I think everyone needs encouragement, and that is a good opportunity to pick up some skills on that. From here, I'd like to go ahead and move on to the general evaluation segment of the session. Steve Ahrenholz is our general evaluator. Please welcome Steve.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests, and to our honored guests looking in from home. This is the portion of our meeting where we provide feedback to all of the participants during the meeting. We will hear what they did well. We will also have identified some growth areas, some things that they might want to consider for improving in their next presentation. And then we'll conclude with a reinforcement of what everyone did well. One of the things that's important about Toastmasters is that you not only receive encouragement to try new and different things as far as your communication and leadership skills, you also get feedback on it, how well you're doing with the things that you're basically trying to master. Our first evaluator that we will hear from today is Joe Schwerling. He's going to be giving us his evaluation for Darren Henderson's speech. Joe, would you come up here and share your evaluation with us?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, audience, and especially Darren, longtime co-member of mine and president of a previous club. The persuasive leader. Almost wish you had led our previous Toastmasters club the way you did this team to motivate us to excellence. The particulars of this project, which is one of the advanced communication series speeches after finishing the first 10 basic project speeches, is persuasive speaking. The objectives are to communicate your vision and mission to an audience and to convince the audience to work toward achieving his vision and mission. As the new and with unsurpassed positive attitude as the new manager of the Detroit Lions, who may actually be worse than the Bengals. I think you did an excellent presentation. It was well prepared, very confident. You're standing up here, good gesturing, good motivation, and speaking to your team about what combination, of course, explaining the situation that everyone knows that they're in, and giving that positive motivation to encourage them to succeed. The good visualization of how their motivation and their response will be better achieved as they visualize what their situation will be as they're winning games. And of course, with any situation such as this, you've got and you had it in the later portion of your speech, in effect, the threat that, if you don't work hard enough and show us that you're doing all you can, that you may not be there for the whole season or even the beginning of it. So you had the carrot and the stick, so to speak. And speaking of cliches and quotations, you had quite a few in your presentation, which is very good. Lombardi in particular, and a lot of phrases I think we've heard quite often in similar situations where the idea is to motivate a person, a group, or a whole community to take action on something. And that's a skill that can be, just like Toastmasters and communication, it's a skill that everyone can use throughout their community, their family, their home, their children, to encourage them that if they do good, you'll take them on a trip to Hawaii. But I think it was a very persuasive speech by a persuasive leader, which was the title of this project, and thank you very much, Darren. Mr. General Evaluator, I am done.
Thank you, Joe. Well, we're not quite done yet with our evaluation portion, but thank you for a nice evaluation of Darren's speech. The next evaluator that we will hear from today is a longtime Toastmaster, and Carol, I'm very glad to see you back here with us today. Carol is serving as our counter and grammarian and will be giving us her report on how we have done using the word of the day as well as other imperfections in our use of English.
Thank
Carol?
you, Mr. General Evaluator. When you said the next evaluator, you threw me. I'm going, we only have one speaker today. Thank you. I will finish my report and be done, but the use of done was used once by Christine, 3 times by Jerome. Jerome, you take the prize for the most today. Joe Swirling used it twice, and Steve used it once that I listened to. One of the things, Jerome, you have a very excellent, clear voice. You enunciate clearly. However, I did find there were no ums. I did find that you said gonna instead of going, and you dropped the G. That was the only thing that I found for you. We had 34 ums today. Christine had just 1 in your table topics and 1 after Darren's speech. But I was thinking, man, as first time as the Toastmaster, no ums. I thought that was great. But you did have 1 after Darren's speech. Roy had 4 in your table topics. I think that's good for being a new person up here at the mic. Steve had none. Laura Lee had none. Darren had none in his speech. Where's Darren? Darren, none in your speech, but you had 2 in your table topics. And then you also double clutched several times with the ifs. If. In your speech, twice you said just instead of just, but once you did say just. So you don't say that slur it all the time, just once in a while. And I did hear you say one get instead of get. Laura Lee, when you said woken up, didn't sound right to me, and I was wondering, should I have been awakened in the middle of the night? I wasn't quite sure. That just hit me. Steve, I did see 1 lip smack. You don't do ums, but you do pauses. Will, while you're thinking of the next one, you did that twice. And I heard you say 1 get instead of get. And when you said Joe Swirling, then that made you say Daryl instead of Darren. So that was a double clutch there. And oh, Paul, in case you're wondering, and you don't have to feel bad, I let people know when they've had a lot of ums and ahs, because when they come back, they have 50 and they come back and only have 25. That's great. You had 26 today. For your first time up here, being in front of television and answering a table topic for the first time, I think that was great, and that gives you something. You'll be really doing well the next time. Now that you're aware that you use, and you don't just say You did that several times, so yours were doubled what normally they would have been because you're going, All in all, I thought we did. Darren, did I tell you that I liked you'll pummel the opposition? I loved your descriptive words that you had, and you had the great body language with the tums and that. And in talking about the team, all the descriptive adjectives, and I liked that you said that they have loved football since when the ball was bigger than they were, and I thought that was really neat. I enjoyed today's meeting, and I think we did well with our grammar and our ahs and ums. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Carol. I don't know why you were surprised when I said we have another evaluator, because we do. We have evaluators that do some other things besides give direct feedback to the speakers. I would like to call our timer for today's meeting up here to give us the time for our various components of today's meeting. Mary?
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. Well, in the table topics, I thought I was timing Joe, so I did anyway, and you did 1 minute and 28 seconds. Carol, you are 1 minute and 12 seconds. Paul, you are 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Darren, you're 1 minute and 28 seconds. And Laura Lee, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Now, in the speakers, Darren, you are 8 minutes and 9 seconds. In as evaluator, Joe, you were 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Oh, I missed some people. In the table topic, Steve, you were 1 minute and 30 seconds. Roy, you're 1 minute and 6 seconds. And Christine, 1 minute and 31 seconds. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. People may wonder, why is it that we time things? One of the reasons we time things is that it helps us learn to speak within the time constraints that we're given to present our information. Additionally, since this club broadcasts its shows, we have to have an idea how long everything runs so that we can get it into the time slot that we're allotted for broadcast. As General Evaluator, I'm going to provide an overview from my perspective of our meeting and also give a little bit of evaluation back to each of the members on my evaluation team. Our meeting today started on time. We have the studio set up here with the lectern and the microphone. We have our banner on display. One of the things I would like to remind people to be aware of, since we do tape this, we have to have a soundtrack to go with it, and you need to be sure that you're speaking loud enough that the microphone can pick it up. Sometimes when you move away from the lectern or you speak real softly, we wind up with a problem where the soundtrack on the program that we're going to be broadcasting has a fairly large fluctuation in the sound level. And that presents some challenges both to us as far as editing it and also to our viewers at home. One of the other things that I noticed we have today, I don't know exactly when they came back into being, but being one of the longtime members of TV Toastmasters, we have our monitor lights on top of the cameras, which tell us which camera is currently filming. One of the things that I noticed along with that is that we're going to have to make sure that we've got those set up properly so that you can see them from up here, because I'm finding that depending upon the location of the camera's monitor, it obstructs your view of the signal light on top of the camera. I want to give Joe a few comments about his evaluation of Darren's speech. Joe, you did a real good job giving us an evaluation today for Darren. You demonstrated enthusiasm in your presentation, and you shared the objective of his speech. I think that's an important thing to do so that we have an idea what it was that he was working towards as far as his speech that he gave to us. Carol, you did a good job evaluating from the perspective of ahs and ums, and yes, I do lip smacks once in a while. As I say, I get rid of one thing and I pick up something else. You pointed that out with my ahs and ums. I don't do those. I draw something out or I make run-on sentences while I'm thinking. I need to have you back here so that I'm reminded of these things. Then I have to work to find something different to replace them with. Mary, good job as timer today. You also seem to be a little bit more at ease when you come up here in front of the camera. I know that that's a challenge for you, but I wanted to let you know that you're doing a good job with that. Our meeting today, I think, went very well. We had a fairly large table topics portion to our meeting, and as several speakers have mentioned, the advantage of table topics is that it gives us the opportunity to learn to think and speak on our feet. This is probably one of the more common speaking situations that we encounter in our daily life. Overall, I want to commend everyone on a good meeting today, and I am going to turn back our meeting to our Toastmaster. Madam Toastmaster?
Well, we're nearly done with our session today, but to conclude, I wanted to echo the thoughts that Steve put out there, that this was a very good meeting. I think that we had some shuffling that we did at the very beginning, and we were able to overcome that and address what we needed to address in the time allotted. Time sensitivity is very important in Toastmasters, and making sure, especially since we are on television, that we have the time to fill and also deliver a quality product at the same time. With that, I wanted to turn this over to the president, Darren Henderson.
Thank you, Christine. Very good job on your first time as a Toastmaster. A couple quick announcements. I'd like to thank all of our guests, Paul Wessels, Roy Roberts, and Joe Schwerling. Would either of you like to come up and tell us how you thought the meeting went and give us your thoughts on Toastmasters? Any comments from our three guests? Okay.
Thank you. First meeting, first time on television, and you never know what you're doing, whatever, lip smacking or whatever. So, and it's a growth time for me. So I like the challenge, and hopefully, you see other people. It's a nice supportive group, and I feel like you can get a lot done here. And learn a lot. So I've learned a lot today, and I think it's a good start, and you've got to start somewhere. And so that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Any comments, Roy or Joe? Okay. Before we adjourn, I would like to bring up our Vice President of Education to give us, Laura Lee Gayfield, to give us a few comments on her Toastmaster experience. Laura Lee.
Thank you, Darren. Darren asked me to take a couple of minutes to share what Toastmasters has done for me, and it took me a long time, all the past hour, to try and figure out how many different ways and narrow it down to just a few. Well, one way, about a month ago, I had interviewed for a different position within my company. Toastmasters has helped me considerably with my interviewing skills, which I thought were pretty good to begin with. But it's really taken it up a notch, because you never know when an interview is going to last 2 hours. The important thing on that is, one, you never know how long it's going to take. And I also felt that I had a good balance between me talking about myself as an interviewee, so that the department head could figure out if I would be a good fit for the position, and also giving him the opportunity to tell me about the department and listening to what he had to say, understanding his body language, and being good at asking questions and thinking on my feet. So it's definitely helped with interviewing. My confidence has grown. I've made a lot of new friends. I've discovered parts of Cincinnati I probably would not have discovered without Toastmasters, trying to get here and trying to get there. And sometimes it's taken me a little bit longer than most people, but that's all right. Let's see. When I do have an opportunity for a prepared speech, or I'm running a meeting, I now know how to make an agenda, how to stick to it, how to time things better. I was in a meeting the other day, and they said the opening agenda item was 15 minutes. I'm going, yeah, right. 45 minutes later, the first agenda meeting item was done. And I felt bad, because the lady that was scheduled for the original 15 minutes was from a different department. Had she had a better idea of the 45 minutes, she probably could have scheduled her day a little bit better. So it's a courtesy not only to yourself as making you look like a professional, but also to the people in the meeting that things are going on time, and sometimes things just need to get pushed off till next week or the next meeting. Toastmasters has been a great opportunity, under $100 a year for most clubs. It's an improvement on myself, which is, I'm the best investment I can make in myself, and it's been a great opportunity. So if you're looking for something to do to invest in yourself, invest in opportunities in your home and your work, give Toastmasters a try. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura Lee. And to echo Laura Lee's comments, I was listening to Carol's comments about ums and ahs. I almost said when I just said that. And it's interesting because as a Toastmaster, when you look at people on television, you think about that completely differently. Looking at President Obama, he's viewed as one of the better communicators we've had in the Oval Office in quite a while. But one thing you will notice is that when he speaks off the cuff, he makes a lot of use of ums and ahs. And if he were a Toastmaster, Carol would really ding him quite severely. And even going back to John Kennedy, if you ever listen to John Kennedy's speeches, he also used quite a few ums and ahs. So it's interesting. People in public life who we think of as great communicators, if they were to come to a Toastmasters meeting, they'd be viewed. Carol would definitely let them know where they stood as far as ums and ahs. I'll just put it that way. So you definitely look at everything from a communication standpoint differently as a member of Toastmasters. One thing I would like to let everyone know that we do meet the third Saturday of every month, 9 a.m., at the Anderson Town Center, located in Anderson, Ohio, right off Beachmont Avenue. And before we adjourn, I would like to we do have one sad piece of news. Wayne Bachman, who was a longtime Toastmaster, passed away this past week. And Wayne was an 8-time DTM. Wayne helped to build 28 clubs over his Toastmaster lifetime. And he also won the coveted Communications Leadership Award, which is typically given to people outside of Toastmasters, but in recognition of his long service to Toastmasters and his great accomplishments, he was given that award over the last couple of years. So please keep Wayne and his family in your prayers. With that, TV Toastmasters Club 9523 is adjourned.